Oh, that was absolutely wonderful. I tell you what, another round for that gentleman. It seems very simple to just get up and sing and be in front of people, but when you're actually up here, let me tell you what, things happen.
No kidding.
Oh, I'm telling you what. Let's see here. Oh, so my talk is called Till the Tires Fall Off. And here's the story. So, like Dale says, I like to go off-roading. I like my Harley. That's my form of spirituality. And the reason why I like to show that type of stuff is because there's not one way to celebrate connection with spirit. Everyone has their own way of doing their own thing. And so, that's my baby right there. That's not the love of my life. The love of my life is behind me, but boy, oh boy, do I love this thing. This right here is one of my tires on that Jeep. It's a 37-inch tall tire. And this is what I do with it. It drives Elizabeth crazy because she's the type of lady that will park her car a mile away just so nobody parks next to her. But don't you know it? As soon as we come out with groceries, there's a car right next to her. While here I have this, and I'm going over rocks, and she's every little ding and she's just jumping around. So anyway, we're up when the first snow happened a couple of weeks ago. And had a great time. And this talk is borrowed a little bit from Dr. Dale because some of the slides that I'm using today is what she talked about a few weeks ago. And again, this is to prove a point that the one source of all life is expressed differently, but using the same power. And so I wanted to show the slides that she had and talked about from her standpoint about that artwork and about being creative in that manner. But these are also paragraphs that can be used in the context of what I'm going to be talking about today. So again, we like to lead by example. Sometimes that's out of inspiration. Today's going to be a little different, and it's going to be kind of out of desperation. So anyway, our experiences have pushed our wholeness into hiding. We have come to believe in limitation rather than the all-powerful creative energy. Capital C, capital E, meaning spirit. That is who we are. We can get stuck in loss, sadness, pessimism, but those are just reactions to life we have mistakenly claimed as our truth. Sometimes we get bogged down in what is going on in the relative world or in what's happening right now this second. So like I said, I'm off-roading, having a great time. And then as we're coming home, the unexpected starts to happen. There's something that Jeep people, if you've ever driven a Jeep, you know what the death wobble is. And that is a wobble where the front tires and the steering wheel starts to shake at a certain RPM or a certain miles per hour that you're riding. And it has to do with the alignment of your front tires and things of that nature. And it can be scary as all heck. And I had that one time, dealing with the death wobble. So after we had that great day of off-roading and I'm just in my zone, we're coming home. And we had to come down on Highway 18. And they were having traffic, and it was bumper to bumper. You know, it's that end of the day where all the skiers are coming home and you felt like you're downtown Los Angeles coming down that 18. And so that started happening, and I'm like, Oh, I know what that is. That's just a death wobble. Okay, I know what to do because it happens at a certain miles per hour. And for my truck, it was happening right around 40 miles an hour. And that's when I started noticing this. And I'm like, fine, I've only got 5 miles to go down to the bottom of the hill where where we're all going down as a convoy. We'll get down there, we'll air up and just make sure, and I'll check it down. I'll check it then. It's only 5 miles because I know what's happening. I've been through it before. Yes, I know what it is. It's no big deal. It isn't until this. My driver's side rear tire comes off. I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, boom, my back end falls down. I'm hearing this as I'm driving down the road. I am on high alert. I'm freaking out because this is my baby. What the heck is going on? And I pull over, and I see this, and I'm like, WTF? You know, and there's traffic everywhere. And the first thought was, oh, shoot, my tire's rolling down the hill all the way to Redlands. And this puppy's not cheap. You know, you're talking probably, a 4-figure number with this sucker. And I'm going, how am I going to find it? I'm standing here looking at this going, how am I going to find my tire? I mean, how far to go? And I don't see anything else. Did it hit anybody? And that was my second thought. Did it hit anybody? Well, I don't see anybody around here, so at least I dodged that bullet, thinking I'm Neo at the Matrix, dodging bullets. But all of a sudden, these people come up and go, yeah, you hit my car. And I'm like, oh, shoot, now I've got to deal with that. Luckily, the guy had just a little tiny jalopy of a car. Well, not jalopy. He had a very nicely used everyday car that he lives up in the mountains, so the fact that it has a dent or a ding on it wasn't that big of an issue. It's not like living down here in Palm Springs or you got to park a mile away at the grocery store so nobody parks next to you. They don't care up there because they're dealing with snow and all that sort of stuff. But he was so cool and calm about it and goes, it's not a big deal. Then the next thing happened. A couple other people said, we saw the whole thing. We tried to warn you. We saw that tire. We saw it hit him. It bounces, and it lands right next to the side of the road. We've got it in the back of our car. At least that saved me a few bucks. So I'm dealing with this, and I'm in like panic mode. I'm in the ditch right now. And I know that some of you have been in that ditch, but boy, it seemed like I was digging it deeper and deeper. Life flows into everything, through everything. It passes into every human event and translates itself through every human act. Even though at the moment I could not read that paragraph and see the divinity in that moment, this teaching teaches you that even when you are in the ditch, you are not alone, that there is a way out. There is something else on the other side. Like Dr. Tom always said, when you're in the ditch, well, I'm gonna paraphrase it. When you're in the ditch, don't build a condo. Get a shovel, build stairs, dig yourself out of it. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Now, I'm in the ditch, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I was in that ditch, like I said. Here I am, a reverend, having the greatest day up until that moment, but it took a split second, and I'm down in that hole, going, why me? How is this going to happen? What am I going to do about this? To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. It was only after a few minutes that I started to calm down. I took a couple of breaths. And I started to say, you know what? I've got this. Like everything else in life, it's one step at a time. If you don't move your feet, it's easy to sit there and have a pity party from where you're standing that life sucks at this moment. But as soon as you start taking those steps, life changes. Spirit can only do for us what we do for ourselves. So as we move in that faith, in that divine aspect that nature is always here for us, that we are divine beings in action, the key word is action. We have to move. We have to be part of the solution. Yes, things come up. And I don't have to go down the road of why. It doesn't matter. Things happen. We teach that our minds, our thoughts creates our realities. And yes, we could get really scientific and talk, well, how did you bring that about? You know what? I don't want to hear that when I'm sitting on the side of the road and I've got my truck, sitting on the ground with no tire. How am I going to jack it up? How am I going to put this tire back on? And not to mention, my bolts had bent because of that. Again, speaking from the relative standpoint of life, I'm sure there's been situations when you looked at it from that relative sense, you couldn't see how to accomplish or to repair it or make it better. But when you calm down and just know who and what you are, that you can handle this, Spirit says, yes, you can. Just take a few breaths in and just begin by taking that one step. We shall not be less practical because we are more spiritual. I love that. I always thought that spirituality meant sitting on a rock somewhere on top of a mountain going, Om. But that's one of the things I like to show everyone who I am. That you can be this person, you can be that active person. Be your authentic self. What drives you crazy? What makes you go, woohoo? Be that person, but you are that person, but from a spiritual context. And then the mysteries of life will start to unfold because you're able to see them. So, because we're more spiritual, we should deepen our faith and increase our vision. There we go. Increase your vision. Let us build around us a wall of spiritual realization and therein dwell. So even though at that relative moment I was in the ditch going, oh, shoot, I only had to realize who and what I was, that I've got this. And I just calmed down, and I just dealt with it from that standpoint of, okay, what is my first step? And I took care of that. And you know what? As soon as I took care of that first step, the next step on that path revealed itself. I didn't have to, from the time that tire was laying on the ground to me driving home and getting home to my lovely wife, I didn't have to figure it all out. I just had to figure out how to get my jack underneath my axle to raise it up high enough. That was my job at that moment, was just to deal with it one step at a time. Be prepared to bring tools. Oh, Lord. Isn't that the truth? Now, for someone like me who is very active, and when you're doing this type of activity, yes, we bring tools to make sure that when something does go awry, that we are prepared and are able to handle it. There was one time, not to get off on a tangent, but here we are. Buckle up, Buttercup. We were in Utah, and one of our friends busted a hole in his transfer case, and all of his transmission fluid fell out of the engine. And we're on top of a mountain like this. We were stuck. but someone had JB Weld in their toolbox. And JB Weld is this putty stuff that you put these two parts together and you knead it together, and it becomes rock hard. Well, we were able to clean it out, do this JB Weld stuff, plug it back in there, wait 20 minutes. Luckily, for whatever reason, I happened to bring transmission fluid with me. I mean, all that sort of stuff, because I've never been on a trip. This was a 10-day trip out into the middle of nowhere. I just happened to bring transmission fluid. Can you say divine right order? I mean, this is what we're talking about here. This is what we teach. Live your life. Live your passion. But when you see the synchronization of life happen, praise it. Be grateful. It's not a miracle. We don't believe in miracles. We believe in divine right order, because our thoughts create our realities. Yes, sometimes things happen that you could get into the ditch and go, well, how were you thinking about that? No. The idea is on the aggregate. Overall, our thoughts create our realities. And by me being prepared, for whatever reason, it just resonated with me. Hey, grab that off the top rack out of my garage. I'll put it in just in case. That was there for my friend. Now I get back on my talk. So that's what my wheel looked like. And if you can see that bolt right there where my finger's pointing, that bolt was sticking out ever so slightly. That caused to where the wheel, even though that it seemed like it was on correctly, wasn't really. And so by me driving over those rocks and stuff like that, it caused this aluminum rim to loosen up, and so it just worked its way off. And so eventually those bolts fell off, and here we are with a photo of my rim with no tire. Again, at that moment, I'm in the ditch. But then I was able to get the jack underneath it. I was able to raise it up. I had a small little sledgehammer. The reason why that black bolt is sitting on that, because I used that to be able to hit the bolt without stripping the threads. And anyone who's ever worked on cars, you know what I'm talking. You don't want to do that, because then you won't be able to get that bolt on. And I bent them back into place well enough to where I was able to get that tire back on. So eventually I was able to get that tire that fell off, that I thought was down in Riverside, which only happened to be a few hundred yards away from me, get that back on, get it jacked up, pump up that tire, and I'm on my way. If you will take the time daily to sense the presence of life, capital L, within you, to believe in it, to accept it, it will not be long before the life which you have known will gradually disappear and something new will be born. A bigger, better, more perfect you. We teach you how to think here. We don't teach you what to think. Stuff is going to happen. This place doesn't prepare you or keep things from happening to you that may not be a positive experience. What we teach here is that through your mental awareness and your mental application of plugging yourself into spirituality helps you get through these ordeals. Now, here's where the spirituality comes into play. I told you about, well, let's see what this one. Our highest satisfaction comes from the sense of conscious union with the invisible life. Perfect. There's more to the story. As we're going off and doing this off-road, we did 2 runs that day, and each path is called a run. We were done with the first run by 12 o'clock, and we said, it's way too early to leave. I mean, we still got all day here, and the snow is so much fun. Let's go do another run called Holcomb Creek, and that's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like an 8. That's where the rocks and things like that happen. But as I'm driving home that night and I'm reflecting upon what has transpired and what has happened, I know for a fact it was all divine right order. Yes, I'm in a ditch, but divine right order was still there. Spirit was with me, acting as me as I'm in that ditch. And this is how I know why. Because if we would have left at 12 like we were planning on doing and just doing that one run, we came up the backside to Big Bear, that's still 18, isn't it, I believe? Or 33. Well, whatever, the backside where you got to come in through Yucca. If we would have gone that way, I quite possibly could have been on that road doing 75 miles an hour. It's a lot different having your tire fall off at 15 or 20 miles an hour than 75, I would think. I don't know. I've never experienced that, but, from my calculations, from my quantum theory. But to be able to see that and go through such a horrific experience that I would not want to wish that upon anybody, but to be able to reflect upon it and go, I am so grateful. That is what it's about until the tires fall off. Don't wait till the tires fall off to know what you're grateful for. Live life. Express it as your own individual uniqueness. If you want to be that person on a mountaintop, fine, if that resonates with you. If you want to come up and sing on a stage and be scared S-less, be it. Say yes. Why not say yes? Spirit always says yes to us, so why don't we say yes to it and allow it to be in us and come from us? Even though we may not know the path, we know that every time we take a step, divinity is there. And the only way you know that you're on your path is when you look in the rearview mirror and you see your footsteps. Otherwise, your chapter, your book is not written. Don't try to write the ending when you're in the middle of your story. Be grateful for what you have. And a lot of times, be grateful for what you don't have. Be grateful for friends that you have. Be grateful for the friends that you've released out into the world. But most importantly, come from that divine love that is with each and every one of you and allow that to be expressed as gratitude, because you never know when the tire is going to fall off. Thank you very much.